Nobody told Buck Tanner that the cow he was milking wasn't a cow at all until it was too late. And by the time he found out, half the ranch was destroyed. 3 chickens were missing feathers, and one very angry bull had made sure Buck would never forget breakfast again. They said Buck Tanner could tame any horse, fix any fence, and find water in a desert just by sniffing the wind. But the one thing that man couldn't seem to figure out was common sense before coffee. It was one of those blistering mornings out on the Dusty Spur Ranch, the kind of dawn that crawled slow and heavy, where the heat already sat in the air before the sun even broke the horizon. Buck had been up all night chasing runaway cattle through cactus country. His clothes were torn, his boots muddy, and his mouth dry as desert dust. When he stumbled back toward the barn, bleary-eyed and half asleep, he spotted Salvation, a big, dark silhouette standing perfectly still in the milking pen. He squinted through the haze and smiled. "Well, bless my soul," he muttered, "a cow full of fresh milk waiting just for me." No ranch hands were awake, no witnesses to question his judgment. He grabbed a dented metal pail, a rusty stool, and swaggered into the barn like a man on a holy mission. He could already taste it, that cold, creamy milk swirling into his coffee, washing the dust out of his throat. The animal didn't move an inch as Buck approached. Big and muscular, it stood there like a statue. Buck thought, now that's one calm cow. He set the bucket under the beast, rolled up his sleeves, and reached for what he thought were udders. The barn was dead silent. Even the morning breeze stopped to watch. Then came a sound, a deep, slow snort, like thunder waking in the distance. Buck froze. That didn't sound like no cow. He blinked, leaned forward, and squinted at the shadowed face in front of him. And that's when he saw it. A thick neck, curved horns, eyes burning red like campfire coals. "Oh, sweet mercy," Buck whispered, his voice trembling. "That ain't Bessie." It was Brutus, the 1,200-pound prize bull. The same bull that once threw 3 rodeo riders in under 30 seconds and bit a man's hat clean in half for whistling too close. Buck's hands were still where they shouldn't be, and Brutus knew it. The bull turned his head slow, like a mountain coming alive. Then he let out a roar that could shake the heavens. What happened next could only be described as divine punishment for stupidity. Brutus exploded in rage, kicking the stool halfway across the barn and launching Buck into a pile of hay like a sack of potatoes. The bucket spun through the air, clanging like a church bell. Buck hit the ground hard, straw sticking out of his mouth, hat hanging off his ear. He groaned, "Lord, I think I just milked my last cow." But Brutus wasn't finished. Steam blasted from his nostrils. He scraped the dirt with his hoof, eyes locked on Buck. "Now hold on there, partner," Buck said, raising his hands. "I swear I meant no disrespect." Brutus answered with another snort, louder, meaner, final. Then he charged. The barn door burst open in a cloud of dust as Buck Tanner ran for his life. He leapt over a trough, rolled under a fence, and bolted across the yard with Brutus storming behind him like an earthquake on legs. Chickens scattered, dogs barked, pigs squealed. By the time Buck climbed on top of the water tower, the whole ranch was awake and in total chaos. Brutus stood below, stomping and roaring in outrage, daring Buck to come down. When the ranch hands finally showed up, the yard looked like a battlefield. Buckets, barrels, and one of Buck's boots were scattered across the ground. Half the fence was gone, and Brutus was still pacing in circles like a war hero. And there was Buck Tanner, sitting on top of the water tower, face covered in dirt and hay, one eye twitching in disbelief. Old Hank, the foreman, squinted up at him and hollered, "Buck, what in God's green earth happened here?" Buck wiped the sweat from his brow and said, "I was, trying to make some coffee." Hank frowned. "Coffee? With what?" Buck looked away. "Fresh milk." The silence that lasted only a second before the entire ranch erupted in laughter. Even the horses seemed to snicker. From that day on, nobody let Buck forget it. Every time he walked by, someone would moo. The blacksmith even painted "Cowboy Milker" across Buck's saddle in bright white letters. But Buck wasn't one to hold grudges, not even against a bull. A week later, he started leaving apples by Brutus's pen. Then he'd sit by the fence, talk softly, tell him stories about the range and the stars. It wasn't long before Brutus started recognizing his voice. He'd grunt, then take the apples straight from Buck's hand. One evening, when another ranch hand tried to tease Buck again, Brutus turned and snorted so loud that the man nearly dropped his hat and ran. From that moment on, nobody mocked Buck Tanner. Brutus became his silent guardian. You could say they understood each other now, one too proud to forgive easily, and the other too foolish not to try. Years later, folks would tell newcomers, "If you ever think you're smarter than a bull, just ask Buck Tanner how that turned out." The tales spread across the plains, from campfire to saloon, told with laughter and a shake of the head. Some said Buck never drank milk again. Others swore he did, but only from a carton. Either way, the story became a legend. And the moral? Sometimes the only way to learn respect is to grab the bull by mistake.
The fire fades, the dust settles, but the West never sleeps. Another legend waits just around the corner. Stay with us for the next story.